How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be bringing you a preservation evoker guide, and I'm really excited about this because this is one of the most fun class spec combinations I've ever played in the game. I've been having so much fun on it, playing it non-stop, and there's obviously a lot of questions about the class, and I have a pretty good amount on it, but by no means am I saying I'm the best evoker and all of this information is correct. I just kind of want to get some information out there that will at least kind of get you into the game. Maybe some of it will end up being right. Maybe the meta is solved. I'm not saying that per se, but it's definitely a really awesome class. So this is the outline of the guide I'm going to use in terms of the topics I'm going to be talking about. And the reason I'm showing you this outline is if you want to skip around in the video, you can have an idea of what I'm talking about. If you don't care about my comparison, about my add-ons, my macros, and you just want to know the healing rotation, you could fast forward a little bit and kind of get a idea of like where I'm at in the guide talking about it. Basically, before every single topic, I'll kind of like highlight over where I'm at. But let's go ahead and get started. And I want to get started with comparing evokers to other healers. And the reason I want to get started with that one first is you don't need to watch this whole guide if you don't even like what the class is about and it's not something you're interested in. So I want to go ahead and kind of talk about evokers as a class as a whole right now. So right now, evokers they're so modern. And what I mean by that is you can tell that this class was designed with all aspects of the game in mind in the current state of the game. It feels like some other classes, maybe fell behind in the arms race. Like, some healers don't have enough mobility. Some healers don't have strong enough defenses. Some healers don't have good enough instant healing. Evoker was made by someone who understands the game, understands all the problems, and I feel like there are some weaknesses to the class, but this class is just, it's so beautiful. So comparing it to other healers, it is a pretty mobile class. You have 2 charges of hover. They sprint you. I'm not going to talk about talents right now. You can be unslow. Like, you could basically not be slowed while you're sprinted or while you're hovered. So you basically have freedom. You have a ranged interrupt, which was unique to Shaman. You have very strong hot healing. I don't know if I would say it's as good as Resto Druid, but definitely like maybe on that like Mistweaver level. But you also have really good burst healing. Which is not really what Resto Druid has, right? So you have the HOTS, you have the burst healing, you have the instance, which is something that Mistweaver struggles with. Some other classes have really strong instance. I would say the best instance of the game right now might actually be Disc Priest because Powered Shield and Radiance are just crazy, but, they Evokers don't really have the problem right now. So basically what I'm saying is this is a mesh of so many classes. And it's kind of almost like taking like the best pieces of every single class and combining them into one, and that's why it's so much fun. Obviously, right now, I would consider it S tier, slightly overpowered, most likely going to see nerfs. When I first played this class on the beta, I was like, wow, this class is really cool, but it's useless. So at the end of the day, even if it gets some nerfs, it should still be fun. And since I played it on the beta, there's been so many quality of life changes, I can't even begin to explain. So yeah, just a really mobile healer. Does a lot of damage. Mistweavers don't do any damage. Resto Druids don't do any damage outside of like cat form, but you don't really play that outside of 2s to actually pump. So that's kind of nice. Mobility, damage. You have really strong cooldowns. You have what I really like about this class is you have a mix of reactive cooldowns and proactive cooldowns. It kind of allows you to play the game both ways. You can be proactive and you can try and outplay people, but you also have those oh shit buttons. The ones that can kind of get you out of trouble in a pinch. So, just an amazing healer. I definitely recommend that you play it. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about my add-ons. Just something I normally do in all my guides, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really use many add-ons right now. A lot of them are literally just out of date. So if you watch my stream and you wonder what add-ons I use, Flyplate buff shows like, the enemy debuffs over their head. It's not actually updated for Dragonflight, so I'd have to like add all of the Evoker stuff in manually. I haven't done it yet. I'm very lazy. Details for damage and healing. I use Omni bar as my interrupt bar. I don't actually think this one is updated either for Evoker stuff. Definitely not updated. So this whole segment is probably a waste of time. But S Arena updated. There's an S Arena updated which I do use. It's kind of better than the default one just because you get to see the DRs and it's like easier to adjust and whatnot. Omni CD is currently not working. That shows teammates cooldowns on my party frame that I moved there. Trophy GCD, this is actually just for you guys. You see my things up there, but if you're curious or you want it for yourself, you know, feel free. And then weak auras. So I'm almost on like a fresh UI here. I'm not really using too many add-ons. But like I said, just something I normally do in all of them. Spec and honor talents. This is going to be a very long segment because with Dragonflight, we have a brand new talent tree. It is, in my opinion, a blast from the past with kind of a mix of, you know, new generation design instead of like so many like bloated points like, oh, here's 5% crit, here's 5 talent points. You know, it kind of feels a little bit more condensed. The choices feel a little bit more impactful than just getting, oh, plus 1%, 2%, 3%. You know, some points are like that, but it doesn't feel as bloated. So we're going to go ahead into the spec. Now, right now, this is the spec that I am currently playing on retail. There are different versions of the spec. Well, there's different things you can do with the spec, but I'm going to go over every single talent point, talk to you about the importance of them, because if you have never played Evoker before, and you look at this, it is incredibly overwhelming. When I first logged on beta, I looked at this and I'm like, do I want this? Like, is this good? What do I use? Like, how do I use this? Take it from the top. Echo, first point in the tree. This is one of your main abilities. You don't really have a choice on these first few abilities, if I'm being honest. Like, you have to take Echo. You have to take Dream Breath. You have to take Reversion. But let's be honest. These are your 3 main heals. So maybe I'll kind of skip around a little bit, and then we'll kind of talk about them in the general rotation. So no matter what you do, you always have to take these first few points, okay? Echo in your main healing rotation, Dream Breath, main healing rotation, Reversion, main healing rotation. We'll talk more about them later. Temporal Compression, every time you cast a bronze spell. And I will tell you right now that my action bars are kind of in a way where, like, if you look right here, these right here are bronze spells. These right here are green spells. For some reason, you know, if you couldn't tell that. And then the red spells are kind of scattered a little bit, but these are your important ones, okay? When I'm saying bronze and green and red, you know, just so you have an idea, you kind of see them on the action bar. Emerald Communion is an incredibly strong cooldown, usable while moving with this talent here. Time Dilation, another really strong cooldown. Rewind, a really strong cooldown. Time Dilation is that one that's proactive that I was talking about. You put it up if you're familiar with Brewmaster Monks. It is a stagger type effect, basically delaying damage and dealing it over time. So this is really great at stopping bursts. Rewind is the exact opposite. It does healing based on how much damage you've taken. So you're completely reactive with this button. There's 2 options here. Time Dilation delays 70% of damage, or a shorter cooldown on Time Dilation. I personally opt into the shorter cooldown because I feel like using it more frequently, 70% doesn't feel as needed, but having a shorter cooldown feels really good. Golden Hour is unbelievable. Basically, this is kind of like a rewind, but tied into your main hot. Reversion, which is your main hot, does healing for 15% of the damage taken in the last 5 seconds. Kind of similar to Death Strike as well. The damage that you've taken allows you to get more healing. Flow State is something that I've been playing with a little bit. Every time you use an Empower spell, and you have 3 Empower spells, we'll talk about them later, you get 10% time flow. I'm not super sure of it, but basically 10% casting speed, 10% movement speed, 10% essence regen, 10% CDR, but that's actually not that much. And then I've also been playing with Empath. Empath, when you use your Spirit Bloom, gives you 100% essence regen. Essence is your 3rd resource up here, kind of similar to Chi, kind of similar to runes, things like that. And it's very, very important to the class, so having that regen feels pretty nice. So let me go ahead and go down here. We take these 3 talents right here. When you use Verdant Embrace, which is one of your main heals, you get 40% more healing on one of your best heals, or 100% more healing on one of your other good heals. Lifeline allows you to share healing with your partner for 40% of the amount for 5 seconds. This is very, very powerful. And Punctuality gives you a second charge of one of your main hots. It makes your class feel so smooth, very important. I'm going to go ahead and show you the spec that I'm running right now on the right side. So this is the build I'm running right now. There's a lot of other choices you can take, but basically Grace Period and Renewing Breath are, in my opinion, the most important points at the bottom of the tree. When you get to max level, you will have more honor or more talents. I will go ahead and show you those in a little bit. Basically, Reversion should be up all the time. Your healing is increased by 10% on targets with a reversion, alright? So look, there's 10% healing. You literally just passively do 10% healing. But wait, there's more. If you echo and then use reversion, you have 2 of those hots up. So now you've literally gained 20% healing from one talent, and this healing is basically always up. If not, you definitely want it to be. So one of your main heals is increased by 20, all of your healing is increased by 20% by using your main heals. Definitely an incredibly good talent. I didn't actually talk about Ouroboros. I kind of only take this to connect the tree, as you can see. This talent actually basically sucks. You're only going to get a very, very minor amount of healing from this talent. It's literally only picked so you can connect these two. Dream Breath is one of your other incredibly big heals. We'll talk about all these spells later, but basically, Dream Breath is generally speaking your top heal in total. So having 30% healing on your best heal is very good. You have Dream Breath right here at number 1. You have Dream Breath right here at number 10. Combine them, and yeah, a lot of healing. So that is the right side of my tree for talents. I know my camera's covering the left side a little bit here, but I'm not actually using any of these talents, so we can go ahead and jump into the left side. This is the same thing. This is the build I've been using on live. Landslide is a very powerful route. I like that. I opt in to go to a shorter cooldown over here. Obsidian Scales is your Bark Skin, your Astral Shift, your Divine Protection, all those type of damage reductions. I decide not to get the second charge. I get it at max level. It just feels like it's really tight to get the points right now. I take 10% Essence regeneration because I feel like Essence regen is really important, and I feel this is 0.5 seconds off every single Essence tick. This feels very important to have. Ranged Interrupt, obviously very good. Verdant Embrace is one of your main heals. Like, it is absolutely insane. It procs Lifebind. You use this all the time. Obviously, you have to go here in the tree. You move over here to Scarlet Adaptation. It kind of gives you the opportunity to be offensive by storing extra damage into your Living Flame, which is one of your main abilities, and you kind of shoot those out every once in a while just to get a little bit of extra damage. And Kindle to kind of move down in the tree here. Not really super important. Living Flame is kind of a smaller part of your rotation. Gets better in the new expansion. I'll talk about later. But you take Enkindled, 6% more damage. Tailwind, 70% movement speed when you first use that hover. Obviously really good. You're kind of sprinting. Also, like I said, you could be freedomed. You can see the shift in speed there. Cauterizing Flame, this is incredible. Into ferals, into assassination rogues, into anything that uses poisons or bleeds. I wouldn't take this in every matchup, but it is connected to basically your only CC, so it's something that you need to take. This is one of those talents I was talking about, kind of got stripped down earlier, but 2% healing per talent, so 4% healing received. Tip the Scales, this is your nature swiftness of the class. This makes your next Empower ability instant. So you basically can NS one of your really strong Empower abilities, amazing. Hover lasts longer, obviously really good. You can literally run cast during hover, so the duration is very, very good. Also, you're unslowable with the talent, so you definitely want that. We don't actually care about this talent at all, but we have to take it. 10% more healing on green spells. As you can see, these are all green spells, and they are very big healing, so this is really good. Renewing Blaze, this is actually one of my favorite abilities of the class. I just really like it. Basically, you put this button up, and 100% of the damage you take, it gets, healed over time. 100%. That is, some would say that's all of it. So obviously another one of those proactive buttons that feels really good to press. You have the options to opt into making this more powerful later on when you have more talents. It's really difficult to get right now. Rescue. This ability is so good, especially talented with Twin Guardian. 30% shield on 2 people, yourself and the person you use. This saves lives all the time. You can use it while you're silenced. I think you could even use it while you're interrupted, depending on what tree. You have a lot of trees. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, Rescue is incredible. When I first started playing the class, this is something I forgot about all the time. I would lose games, bait on Soul Shuffle, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't use my Rescue. Now, once I've gotten in the habit of it, man, it is crazy. Just, so I could show you overall data. Twin Guardian, not super crazy on total healing, but definitely saves lives at the right time. And then a second charge of hover. So this is what I consider to be the best spec on retail right now during the current pre-patch. I don't want to get into pre-patch too much here, but this is what I found to have the most success with. This is a full defensive, full healing spec, okay? I just want to show you the options of doing more damage if that's something that you're interested in doing. Basically, you have the options over here, 4% magic damage, you make your fire breath longer. You go into the points over here where fire breath heals for 80% of the damage it deals, and then also you get more damage on living flame and fire breath. So if you take all these damage talents, this ends up being a 50% increase on living flame, and I'm not exactly sure. So let's just it's really hard to take all of this. You have to drop, I believe, innate magic, because some stuff is just not negotiable. Basically, some stuff is absolutely not negotiable. How many points do we have left? We have 2 points here. So some people actually like you can't really see here, so let me just go full screen for a second. Some people actually like going down to leaping flames. I'm personally not a fan of that. I'm just looking over this to make sure that we have everything. So some people like to go down to living flames because it gives you cleave of your living flame. Basically, imagine just like fireballing multiple targets at the same time. I kind of think that's a little bit patty unless maybe you're playing a comp that actually plans on cleaving everyone. So I'm not a huge fan of it. If you wanted to play the damage build, I would probably do something like this, but you're missing the essence regen, which is going to feel really awkward. You're missing renewing blaze, which is going to give you a little bit of self survivability. And then also you have to make some changes over here. You take out empath, you take out flow state, you put those talents into here. You get 2 points in life force mender. And then I think that's all you can do. Yeah, you literally lose out on 30% healing on your best heal. Obviously, not ideal. All right, obviously this spec looks a little bit better at max level. I'm going to show you what that would look like, but this is going to allow you to do more damage. And I know this seems like a very minuscule amount. Living Flame and Fire Breath deal additional 2% damage based on your maximum health, but it ends up being a lot. Let's see if it's already in here. So this is 8,000 fire damage. Let me see if I can apply this, if it automatically goes through. There, like it says, and this is, okay, so 8,000 to 12,000. That was a 50% increase, like I said. 50% damage increase is obviously a very, very large percentage of damage increase, but you do give up very important defensives to have it. Let me go ahead and show you this talent tree now. This is what the talent tree would look like at 70. I just kind of build on this a little bit. You get timeless magic, which increases the duration of your hot, and your time dilation, which is one of your strongest defensives. You get stasis, which is an incredible cooldown. I'll talk more about how it works in a little bit, but just know that it's really good. You get Dreamflight, which is honestly not really that strong of a cooldown, but why I like Dreamflight is when you're in Dreamflight, you're immune to all CC. If you read it right there, you remove roots, you're immune to CC. You can compare it with Recall, allow you to kind of go back in time. And then on this side of the tree, we end up taking the second wall. We end up taking Recall. We take the short CD knock, and then on top of that short CD knock, we take the stronger knockback, knock up, and daze. And I think this actually has really good synergy. And I was trying to play like this damage build. I know a lot of people really like the damage build, but what I've noticed in Soul Shuffle is you can die as this healer class, you know. I think a lot of people might be too intimidated to attack it, but when you're playing none of these live talents and you're sacrificing so much for the damage, it just feels like you end up putting yourself in this really weird hole because you can't actually get the damage off, and then you're forced into healing more, and then your healing is less effective, and it just kind of spirals out of control. Oh, no tip to scales here. Yeah, sorry, that was the wrong point there. My apologies. That was yeah, you obviously played tip to scales. This was a incorrect point. So the full damage build seems a little bit YOLO to me. Let me go ahead and show you how Recall works here. So Recall feels a lot better on beta in retail because it works with Dreamflight and this Dream Breath ability you have. So you go ahead and Dream Breath. If any melee chase you for 3 seconds, you have the ability to kind of port back to your original location and kind of say, hey, you know, you're not attacking me. So you'd have 2 of those, which obviously feels really strong. I'm going to go ahead and show you the same options you have if you want to play the damage build, I guess. Doesn't feel like you sacrifice as much over here by playing the damage build, and this is something I should say, by the way, you'll probably play very often in 2s. You lose Stasis, you lose Dreamflight, it kind of is what it is. I feel like when you don't have Dreamflight, it's not worth taking Recall, so we'll take that talent point out. Let me take a couple of talent points out of here, that way the whole tree doesn't reset. I think you end up taking Double Wall out. 4% magic damage, Blast Furnace. Let me see if we want to go down to Living Flames here. Let me just make sure we're not missing anything very important. Okay, so we are missing something here. So personally, I don't actually think Leaping Flames is good. I kind of, like I said, I kind of think that's cleave based. Also, I should have mentioned Unravel. Unravel is insanely good into targets with shields. I haven't experimented with it too much in pre-patch because it kind of feels like awkward. Games are too fast. But it is something that I feel like is going to be very meta into Discipline Priest if you have the ability to use it. Just so you could see the scaling, 24,000 damage directly into a shield at 100,000 HP. So 25% of your health is gone. From a shield, basically. So if you were going into Leaping Flames, you'd probably do that. I think these are the points I would take out there. I would take out the short knock. I would take out the stronger knock. Shoot, we need 1 point in this. This is non-negotiable. You would either have to take like 1 point out here or drop Renewing Blaze. I would probably personally drop this. But I feel like you could see, like, it feels like you start sacrificing so much. As a matter of fact, you probably end up not playing. Nah, Landslide's too good, IMO. But yeah, it would look something like this if you had these 2 points and you only wanted to play to Blast Furnace, which is something that I would probably personally rather do. Could look something like this. You could get Recall. You could get, you know, Permeating Chill, and then if you wanted to play Short Knock, or sorry, if you wanted the second wall charge, you could take a point out here. So there's a couple flex points is basically what I'm saying. But these are like kind of like the standard builds. I guess you could kind of play around with what you want. So basically between healing and damage, you could take a look at that. I feel like I've been talking about spec for a while now, so hopefully you got enough information out of that. You always feel free to join my stream. I will say a lot of people thought Oppressing Roar was going to be really good. Just know that in PvP it is nerfed immediately to 20%, which is why it's not something I've even talked about. Maybe in certain specific scenarios I could try it, but 20% feels kind of not as powerful as that 50%. So it is nerfed in PvP. I guess I should talk about this as well. Terror of the Skies feels too expensive to take. Also, it feels like Deep Breath is too slow. So let's just say I want to stun this guy here. All right, I want to stun you. I want to stun you. I want to stun you. Okay, you're stunned. You know what I mean? Feels pretty awkward. Feels pretty expensive to go all the way down there. Time Spiral, I think, is actually very good. You would have to, you know, use one of those flex points to get it. For example, like right here, you get Time Spiral, but for Warlocks, this resets Port. For Mage, it gives them a free Blink. For you, it gives you a free Hover. I think if I'm getting trained, I actually like this talent. I think if I'm playing classes that have, like, decently strong mobility that this could reset, I want to play this talent. Time Spiral is definitely something that you could flex onto, so worth mentioning for sure. And I think Zephyr is basically pretty useless. 2-minute cooldown gives you some damage reduction to only area of effect. Maybe it could be good versus... Maybe you could try and use it against like DHs or Windwalkers when they're doing cleave. It is purgeable. It feels kind of awkward. Every talent point feels like it matters so much, so I personally can't say that I played it, but I don't necessarily think it's good. Let's go ahead and move on to Honor Talents. Honor Talents are pretty cool for Evoker. They feel like almost kind of set in stone, though. I'm going to go ahead and show you the ones that I generally roll with. Let's go ahead and get your camera back on here. Dream Projection is super powerful. I love this ability. You could do some really cool stuff with it. Generally speaking, you only really use it for the hot. But you send a projection of yourself out. You can run over. When you fly through people, it heals. And when you pop it, it explodes. It puts up a massive hot. You can see the hot is scaled at 76,000 health. I have 95,000 HP. So it's almost your entire HP bar in a hot. The hot can hit everyone in like, you know, 10, 15 yard radius. So you could put up multiple of those hots. And also dispels all magic effects, so it's really insane. When I fight Shadow Priest, I literally group up, I drop a Dream Projection, I literally cancel it instantly, dispel all of our dots. You do take the backlash from the dispel, which means you will be taking VT dispels, you will be taking UA damage. UA damage hurts you really bad, be careful about that. If you dispel Flame Shocks and you dispel 3 of them, you're going to get hit by 3 of those things, knock you up in the air, do 3 damage. Definitely something that you need to be weary of. If I'm trying to dispel... UAs, or if I'm trying to dispel Flame Shocks, I'll generally like Obsidian Scales beforehand, especially if you have that second charge, to try not to immediately die. But Dream Projection is really sick. Another thing I will say about Dream Projection that is one of my more like personal favorite ways to use the ability is when you Dream Projection, and you get CC'd, it immediately cancels your Dream Projection, which immediately triggers the Magic Dispel. So if a mage is casting Poly, and you have your Dream Projection out right next to you, guess what? You literally just dispelled your own Polymorph. You could dispel your own Polymorphs, you could dispel your own traps, you could dispel your own fears. Huge outplay mechanic there with this Honor talent. Definitely something that you want to play around with. I love this ability. Nullifying Shroud, this is something that is very overpowered in Solo Shuffle. I don't know if it'll be as overpowered in the regular version of the game. Reason why is because this last 30 seconds of 3 CC immunities in the regular version of the game, when dampening isn't ramping up as quickly, when people literally will just be like, oh, he popped Nullifying Shroud, let's just not run in directly into it. You know, it doesn't feel as impactful, but in Solo Shuffle, this is really OP. You probably take it every single game. Basically, this is Holy War times 3 with triple the cooldown. Little less than triple now since Holy War got nerfed to 45. But this will be purged on individual stacks. So you could dispel 1, you could dispel 2, you could dispel 3. You get them all off. But it's still really obnoxious to deal with. Super OP in Solo Shuffle. Basically, at the start of every single round, you throw this up. I normally throw it up, and then I will echo and then reversion myself to give myself an extra I have an extra 3 buffs to kind of defend that if people try and purge it off. But yeah, not really too much to talk about with this. Like almost as soon as it comes off CD, I try and use it. It's on the Arcane School, which if you get kicked on it, it literally doesn't stop you from using anything unless I'm clueless and you can't for some reason use Bronze spell. Bronze might be Arcane, I don't think it is, but basically I don't think it's very dangerous to cast this. And yeah, I mean, it's just very, very good. Now, the third talent is something that is a little bit more flexible and I would like to talk about. I'm going to talk about the talents I don't think are that good right now. Chrono Loop is, the best way to explain it, is a enemy alter time. This ability is very cool and could be very powerful, but I think it gets countered too easily because it is a dispellable magic debuff. So if I throw it on an enemy in a situation where I think he's, you know, going to get healed up and then he would get brought back down, it could literally just get dispelled off and, you know, it feels like it's not going to be that good. I think that this could definitely be very cheeky early on. People might not recognize it. Someone used it on me. I did not recognize it. So you could try and be a little cheeky with that, but I think overall, in the grand scheme of things, it won't be good. Obsidian Metal makes you immune to interrupt, silence, and pushback effects when your Obsidian Scales is up. You could have 2 of those. Sounds really good. The reality is I feel like this is a little expensive for an Honor talent considering you really don't cast that much on Evoker. And when you do cast, it feels like you don't really get punished if you get interrupted because you have 3 healing schools. Yes, I said that right. You have 3 schools of healing. So if someone wants to kick me, I would have to get kicked on, I'd have to get kicked on green, and then I'd have to get kicked on Living Flame, and then after all of that, guess what? I could still use my bronze spells. You know? Doesn't really feel like Aura Mastery is that insane. Scoring Flame, I personally played this talent in Soul Shuffle. I think it is very strong into Restoration Druid. It purges 1 magic effect per power. So this is 1 purge, this is 2 purges, this is 3 purge. Every single target you hit. It is a mass AoE purge. I think it's really, really cool. Could even use it into Paladins if you wanted to be, you know, like, hey, Paladins don't have that many buffs. If I just get a triple on someone, I'm getting that bop every time. I'm getting that, that freedom every time. You know, 30-second cooldown on Fire Breath, but definitely ways to utilize Scoring Flame. I like it a lot. Precog, I don't think is that good for Evokers. Like I said, you don't really cast that much. I don't really think faking is going to be a huge part of your game plan. Like, normally getting kicked on Evoker doesn't feel very bad. This is what I was talking about early in the guide with Hover. Hover makes you immune to movement speed reduction effects. So if you're getting trained, this is the absolute god tier Live Lore talent you want. You press Hover, you're freedomed, you're sprinting, you're flapping those wings. These guys can't catch you. You could hit them with a root. You could hit them with a knock. You could, you know, Dream Breath over here. They get to you. You could port back. You could hover again. Oh, shoot, our hover's on cooldown because we only have 1 charge. But you get what I'm saying. Obviously, god tier talent. If you're getting trained, that is a must-have. Another talent that I've been playing around with in Solo Shuffle is Swoop Up. Swoop Up is very fun. It is very annoying to deal with, and it can be very powerful. I think this is a very niche spell, But basically versus Disc Priest in solo shuffle, I will literally... It's the opposite of rescue. It's almost like a death grip. I can pull people right out of barriers. I could pull people out of darkness. When I'm on Blade's Edge, I could take them from the top to the bottom. I could swing people behind pillars. You know, this guy's right here. I can grab him and pull him right here, and you could set up a kill. It's a little bit harder to be coordinated with things like that in solo shuffle, but there is definitely times. As a matter of fact, I think I could actually find a clip. I linked a clip in my call. Kind of gave myself a nice pat on the back. This is a swoop kill right here. So this is the healer right here. This is the Evoker. I drag him. I pull him behind the pillar, and I pair it with the knock up immediately so he can't move. I reposition. I knock him into the wall, and the healer just has no chance of getting to him. So you can do absolutely disgusting things with this. I love that ability. I love that ability. So yeah, also I kind of missed this one, Time Stop. I think Time Stop is really bad. I think it could be good for the DPS version of Evoker, but for the Preservation Evoker, Time Stop just feels like a... There can be situations where it's good. You know, someone's like, oh, bro, what if a Rogue Mage pops every cooldown and Kidney's your target? And I'm like, okay, well, if a Rogue Mage pops every cooldown and Kidney's a target and I'm not CC'd already, they're doing something wrong, and I will literally just time dilation, you know, and heal them, whatever. So Time Stop, literally, the best way to explain it is it just cyclones a target for 4 seconds, a friendly target, you know? So if I Time Stop someone at 30% health, in 4 seconds, they're still going to be 30% health. They can't move. They can't be healed. It feels really clunky. I'm not a fan of it. The last honor talent that I would like to talk about, and this is going to be a tough one because it's not actually available, is an honor talent called, I don't even know what it's called. But basically, it puts up 2 walls when you deep breath, all right? I'll give you guys a lovely picture, okay? This is the dragon right here. D, all right? You fly in a straight line, and it puts up 2 massive walls, just like this. Think of it like ice wall. They're on both sides. It creates line of sight. It creates a physical barrier, and it is going to be insanely powerful. So just think of it like this. Like, let's just say this is an arena, okay? Someone steps on your side of the turf. You deep breath right here. There is now a wall on both sides of that they cannot get around. They are stuck behind that. You can't mass spell it. You can't kill it. And it is going to be absolutely devastating. So I would say in most cases, Dream Projection is very good, not only for the spell, for the hot. Nullifying Shroud's very good for immuning CC. You maybe could drop Nullifying Shroud sometimes if you wanted to play like, you know, if you wanted to play wall and you wanted to play swoop up. You could be like, hey, I'm going to swoop this guy behind a pillar and then wall him. You could definitely do crazy things. But dropping Nullifying will feel really tough. So there's like an issue with that talent right now. They're going to add it back into the game. So definitely something to keep in mind there. But yeah, this is your main flex talent over here with Unburdened Flight. I would say almost never drop Dream Projection just because like this is over the course of a solo shuffle. It was my 3rd highest healing. It does so much healing. It's so powerful. It's undispellable. It's really good. It's really good. So you probably almost want to never drop that one. Spec took a while, okay? Spec took a while. I apologize. Let's go over macros. I think I have some pretty standard macros. Not really anything to go crazy about, but I will show you my macros. I use the same kind of macros on every single healer. Arena 1, 2, 3 macros, focus macros, dispel macros, and at cursor macros. So this is just Arena 1 kick. This is dispel myself. This is stop casting, use interrupt. This is at cursor deep breath. So a lot of people are like, yo, I don't see you aim your deep breath. You know, I don't see you aim your root. I don't like aiming it. You know what I mean? I like it just being, you know, I don't want to have to press it, drag it, aim it. I like just doing it with one click. So you see this? Boom. I send my root. You see this? Boom. Send my deep breath. So if that's something you're interested in, that is a simple at cursor macro. So cast at cursor deep breath. Focus quell. Right now focus macros are bugged. You can't actually do a standard focus macro where you just do at focus. I don't know why. This is a help harm macro. When I use unravel and I target an enemy, it'll be unravel. When I target a friendly, it'll be naturalize. Eventually I'm probably going to turn this into a assist macro if I use unravel. So if I'm targeting my friendly and I see a shield go up, I can just press the button. I don't need to change target and just immediately rips off the shield. I think that'll just be like slash cast at assist. So like instead of at cursor, it'll just be at assist. And At Cursor Rescue, it's the same thing with the Deep Breath. It's the same thing with the Landslide. Instead of targeting a friendly, pressing Rescue, aiming where I want it to go, it just goes right where your mouse is. Pretty nice. Landslide there. Arena 1, 2, 3 kick. Dispel Party 1. Dreamflight, the same thing with that cursor macro. Focus Sleep. Focus Unravel. If you got a mage in focus, he puts up a barrier. Boom. Instantly take that off. Goodbye. Party 2 Dispel. Sleep 1, 2, 3. Like I said, arena macros. This is just a focus Azure Strike because I was having trouble slowing Priest and then getting a sleep on him. Not really that necessary, to be honest. And then there's one more macro I want to find in here if I can. Okay, so this is... people have been asking, this is the macro to keep you at the bottom of the frames. You have to put /run before it. Very simple. So, like, literally before this, I can just type it out. It would just be /run. Okay? The reason why I don't have that is because I have an auto run thing. I think that is literally it for macros. Like I said, I don't really have anything crazy for macros. Moving on, stat priority. So I'm going to talk briefly about stat priority. I think it's safe to say no one knows what the best stat priority is going to be. But I will say I have tested mastery, I have tested critical strike rating, and I have tested haste. And in my opinion, haste feels the best. And it completely caught me off guard because I feel like you don't cast that much on Evoker. How could haste be that good? It feels good for your global. And I originally noticed that it gives you CDR. So right now you see this Verdant Embrace cooldown is a 13-second cooldown. That is one of your main spells. Reversion, 6.7-second cooldown. That is one of your main spells. Let's go ahead and get naked here for a second. So it was 13 and 6.7. Now this is an 18-second cooldown. We took 5 seconds off one of our main heals, and this is an 8.8. We took 2 seconds off one of our main heals. That feels very, very strong. And on top of that, haste affects your essence regen, okay? There's points in games where I feel essence starved. There's points in games where my reversion isn't up and I need to get it back on. It got purged off. There's points in games where I'm struggling on healing. I want to get that Verdant Embrace out. Haste just feels amazing. On top of that, when you do cast, having quicker heals does feel good. Your empowers are very slow casts, so making these faster, you know, it feels pretty important at times. Basically, I tried crit because crit allows you to have more duration on reversion, but you actually reapply reversion very often based on the talent Golden Hour because it basically does a huge burst heal. So you end up reapplying your reversion before it expires anyway. Meaning it feels like you lose value on having the extension. On top of that, if your reversion gets purged, it feels like you're playing an absolute dead stat. And I tried Mastery, and I don't think Mastery's bad, and I think Mastery's better than Crit, but Haste just feels, in my opinion, the best. I have 34% Haste on live. Last night, I went on beta, and I had 18% Haste, and I was like, oh my god, why do I feel like I'm struggling so hard to heal? And the reason was I had less essences. I had a longer cooldown on reversion. I had a longer cooldown on Verdant Embrace. Having that less haste actually was incredibly noticeable right off the bat. And I feel like considering how noticeable that was, it makes me feel like it is such an important stat. So I think for PvP gear, you want all the haste verse pieces you can get, followed by the mastery pieces. But for some reason, I actually have managed to get haste on every single piece. Random crit on this offhand, but I could have the staff. I just already upgraded these pieces. But yeah, it's literally haste on everything. So that works out very, very nicely for us. All right, let's go ahead and have some fun here. General button explanation. Like I said, this class is probably super overwhelming. If you log on and you're like, how do I play this class? What do these buttons do? What do I do with this class? I was the same way. I'm going to try and break it down the best way possible. Okay? Right here, Echo. This is your main source of like healing in the sense that you want to do this before every single button you press, okay? This is a really, really unique spell. It doubles all of the healing that you do, okay? So for example, you living flame yourself, boom, 11k. If you echo living flame yourself, 12,000. Not 12,000. It should be 12,000 twice. 12,000, 12,000. It's just super good. The main use of Echo that you want to do is you want to always Echo before reversion. And I say always, but there's going to be some times where you're not, and I'll talk about that. You want to try and always keep your double hots up. But more importantly, you want to always echo before you Dream Breath. Dream Breath is like one of your strongest heals. You really want to get the double hot up on Dream Breath. You want to have the double hot up on Reversion. And also, if you can, you want to try and echo before your Verdant Embrace as well. Verdant Embrace is one of your biggest heals. It flies you to the person. It does a massive amount of healing. Let me see if I can find Verdant Embrace in this. So Verdant Embrace is 5th here on healing. It's just a big instant burst healing. So definitely want to do that. But like I said, the prio is probably doing it on Dream Breath, doing it on Reversion. You're just going to get in the habit of just kind of, you're just pressing it. You're just pressing it. Like, you know, before every single heal, you want to press it. Like literally every single heal. It's off CD. You see me just pressing it right now. I'm just pressing it. Now this is a situation where you'll be in where it's like, oh, my echo's on cooldown. Do I wait for it? And that's just kind of a judgment call that you have to make. My echo's on cooldown, you know. Should I press this Reversion here? You can, you know. It's not going to be in the world. Normally when all these spells are on cooldown, you use your Living Flame. But yeah, that's Echo. I think we basically covered Reversion as well. Reversion is your Riptide, your Renew, your Renewing Mist, you know, whatever you want to compare it with. You basically are pressing these on CD. Dream Breath. This is your massive AoE healing. One thing I want to talk about Dream Breath, it's kind of a cool little feature. So the longer the Dream Breath goes, the more immediate healing it does, the shorter the hot will be. Okay? So we Dream Breath here, we have a very short hot. But if we did it on a quick one and we canceled it in this first set of rotation, it would have been a less burst healing and a longer hot duration. And why that's kind of unique is you can choose basically, do I want to do a ton of healing up front with less of a hot, or do you want to kind of try and pre-hot a little bit, do less burst healing, get a double long hot up, and you know, potentially do that. And I honestly, believe it or not, opt for the longer hot duration most of the time. Because I kind of feel like you already have like pretty good burst healing, so having like that stronger residual healing, it's the same amount of healing but just longer, feels pretty good. So then you have Spirit Blossom or Spirit Bloom. Spirit Bloom heals for the same amount per charge. So if it's single target, you just one tap the Spirit Bloom, done, very quick. If you want to heal 2 targets, you would take that Spirit Bloom to right here, and then if you want to heal 3 targets, you take that Spirit Bloom all the way. Spirit Bloom is, it's a pretty cool ability, you know. These are you know, your main heals on top of Verdant. I want to say with Spirit Bloom, there's something cheeky that you can do. If you have a Echo on a target and you Spirit Bloom and you spam Echo after the Spirit Bloom shoots in, and then the Echo Spirited Bloom shoots in. And if you are spamming Echo, that second Echoed Spirit Bloom will actually trigger a third Echo Spirit Bloom immediately. I know this sounds really confusing, so let me show you. So Echo's up, we Spirit Bloom, and we spam Echo. And you see how it's kind of delayed? It allows you to literally do a triple heal on one person. One of the talents that we put in was 100% Essence Regeneration. One of the talents we put in was 100% Essence Regeneration for 8 seconds. When you Spirit Bloom. So what I like doing here is Spirit Bloom's a 30-second cooldown, Dream Breath's a 30-second cooldown. There's times in a game where you feel very starved, okay? We get an Echo Reversion on me, we get an Echo Reversion on our teammate, we get another Echo Reversion up on this guy. We're a little tight on Echoes right now, alright? We Echo, we Spirit Bloom right here. Now our regen's gonna be popping off. We can Echo this guy, okay? We can Echo this guy, and now we can literally get, I don't know why it's not showing on him, but we can literally get a double. I don't think I can heal this guy. Is that what it is? Son of a gun, I can't heal that guy. But we can get a double Dream Hot on 2 people right now. And that's something why I think the Empath is really good, because if you Spirit Bloom before you Dream Breath, you're able to kind of maintain all of this essence you need to actually get out. You know, we'll do this, we'll do this. We get the reversions up, we'll do this, we'll Spirit Bloom. And now we can actually get a double Echo up. So Echo this guy. We'll Echo ourselves. We can get a double Echo up before we Dream Breath, and we get a double hot on 2 people. And that's why I like Empath. Also, when the Spirit Bloom happens, you get the flow state. That also increases your essence regen. It's all about that essence. So yeah, these are your main spells. You're going to be using these as your healing spells all the time. You Echo into, you know, Reversion. You Echo into Verdant Embrace. You Echo into a Spirit Bloom. You know, you could reapply a hot, you Echo into a Reversion, you echo, and then if you can pinch it, you could wait for this second one. You could double echo, get the Dream Breath on 2 people. All these heals right here are functioning as one. You know, it feels very, very smooth. And now, when do you use Living Flame? So this is your filler. This is pure filler. You almost never use Living Flame. When do you use Living Flame? Oh, I got kicked on Spirit Bloom. I'm going to use a Living Flame. Okay? That's simple. If there's times where, like, you're trying to wait an extra second for an echo, I'll try and get to one of those times right now. Let me just spam echo here, okay? Alright, so we really want to use this Dream Breath right here, but we want to echo for it. We'll cast a Living Flame, echo into Dream Breath. You know what I mean? Living Flame is pure filler. Now, with that being said, Living Flame can be used for damage all the time. If you're ever trying to do damage, consider it like a penance. Offensive and defensive. You can literally shove out damage with it whenever you want, you know? We're healing, we're having a good time. Boom! Targeting this guy, boom! Living Flame. You can literally spam it. Spam it. Spam it. Do whatever you want with it. You also have Disintegrate, which uses Essence, so you don't use it as much. Also, keep in mind your Living Flame, when you use it, will give you a free Essence sometimes. That's what this proc is right here. So normally when I get that, I'll literally just send out a Blossom, which you don't really ever use outside of that, or Disintegrate just for free. I kind of just wanted to talk about, like, the core healing spells first. So you have your Echo, Reversion, Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom, Verdant Embrace, Living Flame. Normally the way I kind of like to use things is I normally will try and always Verdant before a Dream Breath. It's a talent that you have here. This increases the healing of your Dream Breath by 40%. Also increases the healing of your Living Flame by 100%. So keep that in mind. If your Dream Breath's on cooldown, because it has literally half the cooldown, you can Verdant Embrace into a Dream Breath. The next Verdant Embrace, you can kind of power up that Living Flame. So there's 2 options there with that. And keep in mind also, when you Verdant Embrace, your healing is spread. So, for example, I Verdant Embrace this guy, and then I get, you know, a double Spirit Bloom. That healing shares off of each other, you know what I mean? 40% of my healing that I just healed with the Spirit Bloom goes to him. The healing that he got goes back to me. So it's really, really powerful to get that cleave healing out with Life Bind up. Because it shares healing. It's absolutely insane. So this is general button rotation still. Let's go ahead and take it from the top. Rescue, we talked about. Swoops to an ally. Bring him to a safe location. You know, you could bring him up on Z-axis maps. You could get him away from melee. That's right here. Hover. We've already talked about this a little bit. There's a weird bug if you press hover when you're not moving. You won't go anywhere. It takes the cooldown. Make sure you're always going in a direction when you press that. Otherwise, it'll be very frustrating. You have your landslide here, which is your root. It is dispellable, but it's still very powerful. You have a knock back. You have a knock up, both of which that don't DR with each other. And they will disrupt casting, which is very nice. And then also keep in mind that if you end up taking this talent, that it's also a very powerful slow. So if you're trying to get away or you're trying to peel for your teammates, you can use one of those literally just for 70% slow to get people off of you. You have Sleepwalk, which is basically your only CC because you can't really spec into Terror of the Skies, in which we discussed earlier. So Sleepwalk is literally a 5-second CC in PvP. It's very fast, but it is on your green spell, your green tree, so you do need to be a little careful. If you get hit with Sleepwalk, you're going to be using either Living Flame to heal, or you're going to be using your bronze spells to heal. Let's move it over here. This is Stasis cooldown. We will talk about that in the cooldown section. So I'll go ahead and just change my tree a little bit for now. Stasis stores up 3 heals, and for 30 seconds, you're able to shoot those heals out to whoever received the healing in the first place. All right. So I'm not gonna get too crazy into it right now. So I'm just gonna kind of do my buttons here, but it's really nice to use cleave healing spells with stasis, because I didn't heal this guy a single time with my stasis. I only healed me, but when I shoot these spells out, all those cleave spells are gonna heal him by default. So stasis with cleave spells is very, very nice. Fleshcraft is something we don't need to worry about. Your deep breath is something that you can use for damage. Generally speaking, I use it to immune CC because, hey, polymorph's coming in. Hey, priest is coming into fear. Boom. You're immune to crowd control. You're immune to crowd control. You're immune to crowd control. Boom. Reposition. All right. Dream breath is really awesome for immuning crowd control, repositioning. If you play recall, you have the ability to immediately port back. What I also like to do versus rogues in solo shuffle, this sounds really troll. I literally just nullifying shroud, hover in, deep breath right down the middle. I'm immune to CC. I got my Shroud up. I get him out of stealth almost every single time. And just start the game. Don't get sapped, because if you don't get in combat, you put the nullifying Shroud up. He just comes over, sap, 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 boom. You're in a full kidney shot. You're going to die. I don't know why this is a question mark. I don't know what's there. Quell is your ranged interrupt. You have a 25-yard ranged interrupt. It's a 40-second cooldown, by far the longest interrupt cooldown in the game. But it's still there. Definitely want to try and recognize when it comes off cooldown. It's one of those ones that are like a little trickier to track because it's such a long cooldown. You don't pay attention to it. Disintegrate is your blue skull. You don't ever have to worry about getting kicked on this. If you get kicked on Disintegrate, the only spell you can't cast is your Azure Strike, which is, you know, basically useless. But Disintegrate is a lot of damage. If you're going ham for the kill, you can definitely dump some essence into it. It's a little bit of a trade-off, like a risk-reward thing, because it does do a lot of damage, but it is using your essences, and it's 3 of them. Echo's only 2, so think about that for a second, right? You use a Disintegrate, you're down to basically 1 Echo for the next, you know, however many seconds. Very powerful. It will slow if you're spec'd into this. I think it slows by default already. Yeah, it does. Rewind, it is a raid-wide cooldown. This is something I didn't know originally, but all the damage that your raid took within 5 seconds, Rewind heals it up. Rewind is your revival, your healing tide, you know, your tranquility. Very, very powerful. Time dilation, this is a really, really short cooldown. It's at 1 minute default, but basically whenever you feel like someone's taking a strong amount of damage, you put time dilation up, and the damage is staggered over, you know, 11 seconds. Half the damage they take is spread out, so it's almost like a 50% damage reduction, and you do really good healing, so you're able to heal through that steady very, very easily. Now watch the cooldown on time dilation here. This is the talent that we have. We use an Echo, okay? 2 seconds off. We use an Echo, 2 seconds off. We use an Echo, 2 seconds off. Let's get our Spirit Bloom rolling here. Now our Essence regen's going crazy. We use an Echo, 2 seconds off. And it just ends up being so much time off that I personally just feel like this is the better talent than the 70% reduction. Maybe sometimes you'll want that 70% reduction when you feel like you don't have to use it as often, but definitely feels very good for Soul Shuffle. Emerald Communion. Oh man, this is a spicy one. Emerald Communion is one of the best cooldowns in the game. This ability heals for 20% of your health and gives you mana every 0.7 seconds for 3.7 seconds. So it just does a ton of healing. Almost impossible to kill through. Usable while stunned. Usable while feared. Usable while silenced. And guess what? You can fucking use it while you're moving because you talented into it, okay? One of the biggest mistakes I made when I originally started doing beta was I thought this was a self-only cooldown. It is not. This cooldown is insane to heal your partners. When you're at full HP, you can literally just top your partners in like in caps, in traps, in fears. It doesn't work in polymorph, but this thing is usable in almost everything. This is definitely a massive heal. And a little trick you can do with it is, remember how I told you if you have life bind up, you share that healing with your partner. If you Verdant Embrace before an Emerald Communion, it is just an absolute ridiculous amount of healing. I don't know if it'll show the shared healing here, but just for example here, just watch how much healing this is going to do here. So you see the life bind? Life bind heals you 10,000. Emerald Communion heals you 30,000. Life bind heals you 10,000. Emerald Communion heals you for 30,000. There's no shot you're dying through this. How much healing is this? 30k, 30k, 60k, 90k, 120k, 150k. This one randomly healed for more. 10, 30, 40, 50, 60. That is 180,000. That literally healed me for 2 times my health pool. But it didn't only heal me. He's also getting healed with the life bind. It's insane. It cannot be kicked. It can be interrupted with some crowd controls. Like Dragon's Breath, I think, stops it. I think maybe Blind stops it. I'm not 100% sure on all that because you can use it while moving. But yeah, it's just... Gouge actually does not stop it. I don't know why. It's just insane. Usable while stunned, by the way. Think about that. Very, very good. Dream Projection, I think we've already talked about quite enough. You could also randomly fly with this in Arena. I don't know why, but you can. You don't want a projection up there. You don't want a projection up there because no one will get the hot. But just, you know, if you're on a Z-axis and you're on the bottom and you just want to soar right up to the top and be like, yo, what's going on, boys? you can do that. You have that option. Cauterizing Flame, we talked about this one already. This is absolutely devastating into Assassination Rogues, into Feral Druids. They have like really long cooldown bleeds. You just Cauterizing Flame those off. It heals you, removes all of them. Fantastic. Renewing Blaze, we talked about this one earlier. 100% of the damage you take, it's healed over time. You get a second buff, and that second buff is magic. It is purgeable, so you do have that option. Obsidian Scales is your shield wall ability, 30% less damage taken. It's kind of like Bark Skin, you know, Astral Shift, whatever. This is your boon. Don't worry about this. This isn't going to be relevant next expansion. Fire Breath. Fire Breath is one of the main ways you deal damage. You kind of want a Fire Breath on cooldown. It has the same premises as Dream Breath. If you do a 1-tick Fire Breath, it does less damage initially, and the dot duration is longer. And if you do a full tick Fire Breath, it does more damage initially, and the dot duration is shorter. I generally tend to go for the longer one because the dot is dispellable, and I kind of want more burst. But that ability feels very good to press. You want to try and do it on cooldown. Opening up that Fire School isn't really that dangerous. Living Flame, you know, also for damage. You can do the Dream Breath into the Living Flame. Earlier we talked about playing Leaping Flame, so if you were to do a max Fire Breath, you could literally shoot out 5 Living Flames. But yeah, Unravel, we talked about that one. Visage, this is basically cosmetic. You can go into Visage form out of combat. You have like more regen, not really relevant. Azure Strike, basically Azure Strike I use only for killing totems. I use only for killing totems or trying to slow people if I'm playing Permeating Chill. Emerald Blossom is actually just garbage. It is so bad in comparison to Echo. I never use this spell unless I have a proc from Living Flame that gave me a free essence, but you're just wasting your essence if you press Emerald Blossom. Don't press Emerald Blossom, man. Just Echo Reversion, Echo Dream Breath, Echo Spirit Blossom, Echo Living Flame. Don't use Blossom. It's garbage. And then yeah, that's everything. Those are all the spells. So I hope that gives you a general understanding of what each spell does. But now we're going to talk about empowers. You have 3 empower abilities, okay? So you have 3 empower abilities. You have Fire Breath, you have Dream Breath, and you have Spirit Bloom. Now, Tip the Scales, which is one of your other cooldowns right here. You can see which one it lights up. It makes your next one instant at maximum power. So, generally speaking, I'm not a crazy offensive healer. I don't think the Fire Breath is ever really worth it. And Spirit Bloom doesn't actually heal for more, depending on the empower of it. Spirit Bloom only heals more targets. So, I always try and tip the scales with a Dream Breath. You Echo, tip the scales, Echo, Dream Breath. You get a huge burst healing, and you get the double hot up. And remember, you want to try and get that Verdant Embrace before if you can, because that life bind will share that healing. But yeah, so tip the scales. Generally speaking, only use on Dream Breath. There has been times where my Dream Breath's on CD, so one target is really low, and I'm like, oh my god, I need healing right now, and I have tipped the scales and used the Spirit Blossom, because you gotta do what you gotta do. But basically what I'm saying is I don't have it macroed to Dream Breath. I literally could, though, because if Dream Breath was on cooldown, you could literally just press Spirit Blossom manually. There has been times, I must say, though, where I press tip the scales, and I'm like, oh wait, I didn't Echo first, and then I hold the tip the scales for a second, and then I Echo. It's kind of noob, so don't want to really do that, but yeah, tip the scales there. But yeah, we kind of already talked about the empowers and how they work. You have 3 empowers. If you pop the Dream Breath or the Fire Breath at a short duration, the instant initial is less for healing and damage, but the hot and the dot are longer duration. If you do it further in the cast, it's more initial damage, more initial healing, less damage over time, less healing over time. And then Spirit Bloom is literally just a single target heal, or a double heal, or a triple heal. It always ends up being the same number. It's just how many targets. And it's actually a really cool animation here. You see it kind of getting bigger as you go. Pretty cool. And then, like I said, I showed you that little trick with the Echo, which I could show one more time, but yeah. All right, Healing Rotation. To be honest, I feel like we already kind of talked about the Healing Rotation, but I can go over again really quickly. And same with damage rotation. I feel like I kind of talked about in the general button explanation. But yeah, Echo before your Reversion, Echo before your Dream Breath, that is priority. You definitely want to Verdant Embrace before any type of cleave healing if you can. It's really, really good to do. You know, even if the Verdant Embrace isn't echoed, you still want to try and get that. So for example, like let's just say you're coming on your last essence here. You know, I would literally Verdant Embrace here to get the Echo, to get the Dream Breath. You know, I think it's more powerful to get that Dream Breath rolling because Dream Breath is such a high percentage of your healing. I'll show the double Spirit Blossom again. Basically, you Echo into a Spirit Blossom and you spam Echo after your Spirit Blossom cast, and since it's delayed, you get extra benefit from the Echo. So this guy will get healed for, he should get healed for 20k, 25k, whatever. But the Echo will make it 50k, and then if you double Echo it at the end, it'll end up being 75k here. So you Echo, Spirit Blossom, and then you Echo again. And then you see it's just boom, boom, boom. So that's actually really crazy. Really, really crazy burst healing. Other than that, for healing rotation, I mean, it's literally just all these buttons. Living Flame is your last resort. You want to use that if you see all of these on cooldown. Okay? If you see all of these on cooldown, these 4 abilities right here, that's when you're pressing Living Flame. Those are the situations where, oh, I need a Living Flame. Okay, my Reversion's back up, you know? Oh, you know, I need to Living Flame right now. You have nothing. And this happens. This happens where you have literally nothing. You got a Living Flame. You could try and Echo it if you want. You use Living Flame if you're waiting for an Echo to use one of your other abilities, or if you're kicked on green, or if you have none of the other abilities available. I think that kind of covers it for like your actual healing rotation. Just try and Echo before everything. Priority with Reversion and Dream Breath. Try and Verdant Embrace before AoE healing, and last resort Living Flame. So your damage rotation, it's really simple. You know, we kind of talked about it. You have the Fire Breath, which you want to use all the time. Living Flame, which you use if you have extra time, and then Disintegrate, what you use when you have extra essence, or you're really pumping for a kill, or that Living Flame that you used gave you a essence burst, which is, you know, free essence ability. And then Azure Strike is kind of crap. You really only use it for slowing people or just like killing totems is what I like to do with it. And then Deep Breath I don't really ever often use for damage, but it is an option if you want a Deep Breath for damage. But you can immune CC with it, you can recall with it, and yeah. Alright, so there's something I want to talk about very briefly, just because I want this guide to actually be relevant in the, you know, actual Dragonflight. Your rotation gets changed up a little bit in Dragonflight because your tier gear has a chance to proc a instant Living Flame. So Living Flame becomes a much bigger part of your rotation when Dragonflight comes out, just based on the fact that it's literally instant cast. I will say, with that being said, that a lot of the times my Living Flame ends up just going out for damage because it doesn't really feel like you need that healing. But basically, when you have that tier set proc, send it. Send it for damage if you want. Send it for healing if you want. You just don't want to. You don't want to be wasting the proc. Basically, if you don't need the healing, always use it for damage. Get that proc rolling. It's good. I just want to show you what it looks like real quick if I can. It procs off Reversion, so if you have Reversion on more targets, you have a better chance to proc it. I wonder if I need to be in combat for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and get in combat here. Alright, so here it is. See? Your next Living Flame's cast time reduced by 100%, deals 20% more damage and healing. Boom. That's simple. Living Flame just becomes a lot more relevant in the new expansion, but not because you want to cast it more, just because it's literally instant cast. You can have 2 stacks of that, by the way. Cooldown rotation. So this is something that is always very frequently asked by healers, is like, you know, what is your cooldown rotation? So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. I actually have a way I like to use cooldowns. I'm not sure if it's the best way. We already talked about the life bind with Communion. That's really, really good and really important, and definitely something that you want to keep in mind. But my general cooldown rotation. So the first cooldown I use every game is honestly Dream Projection. Like, when a game starts, I get my Dream Projection out as fast as possible. Like, basically once the damage goes out, because you just get this hot up on everyone. It feels really good. The second thing that I generally do is I go for a Stasis. And I like to stasis really early because getting a stasis, which stores your next 3 heals with a Verdant Embrace and a Dream Breath, is just like the most powerful way that you can use stasis. So if a game is starting off a little bit slow, I'm honestly in this awkward situation where I'm like, do I want a Verdant Embrace here? Well, now I can't stasis for 13 seconds. So sometimes at the start of games, I kind of like fiddle around a little bit when I'm playing stasis, and I'll actually just cast a Living Flame here, and I'll cast a Spirit Blossom here, and you know, I kind of hold on to that Verdant Embrace, and as soon as I feel like that damage comes in, boom, stasis. And then if the damage is really high, I will tip the scales a Dream Breath, or I'll hard cast a Dream Breath, depending on what happens. But I like getting the stasis out early. And now, whenever you need it, you can pop this Verdant Embrace, Echo, Dream Breath, and you know, it's really powerful. Now, the rotation for stasis is very simple. There's 2 rotations for stasis. And don't get me wrong, there's some times where I'm in solo shuffle where I am desperate. I have no healing available. You know, it's literally just this, okay? I have no healing available. I'm like, oh my god, stasis came off cooldown. I'll literally stasis a Echo into a Living Flame into a Reversion and just pop it. We're deep damp. I don't have time to wait 13 seconds for a Verdant Embrace. Sometimes you just gotta send it. There's 2 really good rotations with stasis that I will discuss right now, and I'm going to write it down here. So, before stasis, you always pre-echo, okay? And then you stasis, and then you Verdant Embrace, VE, and then you echo, and then you Dream Breath. This is the most standard stasis rotation ever, but what you're doing is you're pre-echoing your Verdant Embrace, so you get double healing there, and the Verdant Embrace would be your first one of your stasis, and then you echo into a Dream Breath. So you literally get the powerful Verdant Embrace into the powerful Dream Breath where you double it. And guess what? When you pop your stasis, it's the same thing. Like, oh, I want to pop my stasis here. You pre-echo it, and then you get the echo for the Verdant Embrace, and then it recasts the echo, then it recasts the Dream Breath. Boom. Definitely one of the best ways to do it. Now, if you're fighting against cleave healing, and you need to heal 3 targets, you echo into stasis, into Verdant Embrace, because once again, you get the double Verdant Embrace, and then you Dream Breath, you know, with Tip the Scales or cast it, and then you Spirit Bloom. And the reason why you drop the second Echo is because you're basically getting one. You're only going to get 1 hot for this Dream Breath, but you're going to get the triple healing from your Spirit Bloom. I personally prefer this one. I like the double hot. So this is something also really interesting you could do, and this is something that is also very unique. You can Echo into Echo, and then you could Verdant Embrace. And now you have 2 life binds up. Okay? So, on this one, for example, you could literally double echo people. So, you could literally echo, into stasis, into Verdant Embrace, and it heals both of them, into an echo, into a Tip the Scales, like Spirit Blossom, whatever. But, yeah, getting that double life bind up for that cleave healing, insane. Insane. You could also double life bind that cleave healing with your Emerald Communion here, by the way. Echo, Verdant Embrace, Emerald Communion. Most healing worldwide. Literally impossible to die. Just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So life bind, very important on that Verdant Embrace. Definitely good to do. It's kind of why I stress the importance of having so much haste and so much essence regen, because there's so much you want to do with essence. So, general cooldown rotation. Sorry, back to what I was talking about. Stasis, Dream Projection, normally the first cooldown to go. Generally, stasis will be like the second cooldown, depending on or not if I want to get that time dilation out first. So, it could be time dilation, it could be stasis. It kind of depends on, you know, the way the game is, you know, turning. Time dilation being more like damage mitigation, stasis being raw throughput, and then rewind is probably my next cooldown to go, and Emerald Communion is generally speaking my last line. It is your best cooldown, your strongest cooldown, but that will get mixed up if you use Emerald Communion while you're in CC, because you could use it in traps, you could use it in fears, you could use it in stuns, but generally speaking, that's the way I like to do my cooldown rotation. So, start of games, use Dream Projection, and then you could stasis slash time dial, depending on where the game is rolling with, into a rewind, into a communion. This isn't always going to be it, but I would say for the most part, it's dream projection always first. These ones always first. You know, if you dream projection, then all of a sudden you take the most unbelievable damage, you can just go ahead and send the rewind, right? Like, this is just a general speaking thing, and this is generally how I play my games, and it normally feels pretty good. Mana efficiency. This is something that people like me talking about. There's really not much you can do here with mana efficiency. Your mana just evaporates. I will say, you know, if mana becomes to be an issue and you're playing 2v2, there is a talent available that allows you to generate 1200 mana over the duration of an Incinerate. Not crazy, but better than nothing. Pretty weak, honestly, but still actively could give you mana, especially if you're already spamming damage and you want mana. But in terms of efficiency, I would say it's all about how you're doing your healing with echoing before the reversions and getting those double life binds out and echoing before the dream breaths. It's all about getting that effective healing out. The more effective and efficient you are with your healing, the better your mana efficiency is going to be. We are going to talk about positioning, and positioning is a little bit of an awkward one because you are an Evoker. You have a 30-yard range on your heals and a 25-yard range on your damage. Living Flame is a heal, so it works for 30. This is 25. For some reason, your Dream Breath and your Dream Projection's 50 randomly, so like if you have Dream Breath, like you could just randomly just go 50 yards for some reason. But yeah, so positioning for Evoker is a little bit awkward, and I will say when I fight against mages and when I fight against things that could cast CC on me, you definitely put yourself in a position where you can be CC'd. One of the main reasons being is like, and this might actually, the meta might shift for Evokers a little bit when like live matches start going, because you want to try and avoid CC more, where you sit back and you Living Flame, and if you get kicked, you Spirit Bloom, and you almost like never Verdant Embrace. But I definitely noticed myself Verdant Embracing just because it's kind of part of your rotation and end up getting CC'd forever. In Solo Shuffle, I haven't really thought twice about it. It just kind of feels like it is what it is. But definitely keep in mind that, you know, in Dragonflight, if you're fighting against a mage, you're fighting against a warlock, or you're fighting against, you know, a druid that wants to clone you, it might actually be worth it to not really go for those Verdant Embraces in certain situations and kind of play back as a you know, a Living Flame healer. And if you get locked out, you know, you can always cast a Spirit Blossom, you can cast a Dream Breath, and if you're really desperate, you can Verdant Embrace. What I will say, you do have the opportunity to immune crowd control by going in. When you go in, you have your kick available. You know, let's say, you know, you go in here, you're position aggressive, you have a kicker available, boom, just kick that poly, okay? Now we're backing off a little bit, all right? And now we got to go in again. Alright, boom. We have our knock available. We just knocked that poly. We can't get away from this one. We can start casting a Nullifying Shroud. This guy randomly popped up for no reason, so we're just going to whoop his ass. Full Dragon's Breath. Boom. Into full Living Flame. Boom. Into a proc for Disintegrate. Into a Redisintegrate. You could run cast these Living Flames right here because we got our hover available. You could also run cast your Disintegrates. Boom, we're just destroying them. Guess what? Dragon's Breath. Over the top. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. You have a lot of tools to avoid CC, but I'm saying like you might actually need to put more thought into actively avoiding putting yourself in that situation. Or if you have no CC stops, no kick, no knock, no shroud, no breath, maybe you don't actually even want to Verdant Embrace. Because you are in melee range a lot. You're kind of stuck with it. Utility and CC. So honestly, I don't actually feel like Evokers have a ton of utility. I think that's something that they're lacking a little bit, but maybe I'm underestimating it. So I'm just going to go over the top what you have. We talked about a lot of this stuff, but you have your Root. Root feels really good. You have a Knock. This feels very good on Blaze Edge, Dalaran, things like that, whatever. You have a Knock Up, okay? You have your Rescue, which is your Life Grip, and you could, you know, you could have a Purge. That's a little bit of utility. One thing that actually is kind of interesting is Dream Projection. Having a second Dispel kind of makes you a little bit more unique. There's definitely been times, you know, where my double melee literally get double rung, and I'm like, boom, guess what? You're out of that. But I will say what I think is one of your strongest win conditions, and the biggest utility you have is literally just swoop up and the wall talent. I think that those are how you can help get your team in a winning situation, is by pulling an enemy behind a pillar or setting up a wall to create a pillar to help your teams actually get CC. Other than that, I would say you do a ton of damage, you do a ton of healing, but it doesn't really feel like you're like insane with CC or with utility and CC. Your only CC is this sleepwalk, and to be honest, it doesn't feel bad. But I'll talk a little bit about it more later. There's not really much to talk about with dealing with kicks. You have multiple trees. You actually have, I think, 4 or 5... I think you literally have 5 schools of magic. You have the bronze, but you don't actually ever cast bronze. Unless for some reason I'm confused and Nullifying Shroud is on the bronze tree, because bronze might actually be technically considered arcane, and this is an arcane spell. And if this is an arcane spell, I don't remember ever getting kicked on it, but you have the bronze tree, you have the green tree, you have the red tree, and these are all 3 healing schools. Then you have your frost tree. When you disintegrate, doesn't matter if you get kicked. And then if you somehow manage to get kicked on green, on red, on blue, you have the obsidian tree, which is your wall and your root and things like that. So for some reason, this class literally, it has the power of all Dragonflight, so it literally has everything, you know? There's not really much to do with kicks. Personally, right now, I literally do not fake interrupts. I don't fake interrupts. If you're wondering what the best thing to kick versus Evoker is, it probably is the green tree. But just know, if you kick the green tree, guess what? They still have their Echo. They still have their Reversion. They still have their Living Flame. They still have their Rescue. I'm going to be honest, this actually probably promotes pretty bad gameplay, basically having a healer that is legitimately immune to interrupts. But at the same time, I will say, getting kicked on the green tree at the right time does feel pretty devastating. But it's like kicks plus micro CCs, you know? Like, I'm fighting people in solo shuffle, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to cast this off here. Oh, I didn't get it. I got kicked. Whatever. I'm just going to cast Living Flame. Oh, I just got horrified. You know what? I'm going to go back to the green tree. Oh, I got kicked on that again. You know, I'm going to go to this. Like, oh, I got feared. You know? It's the little micro CCs on top of the interrupts. There definitely is a point in kicking. You still want to try and stop, you know, the green tree if you can. I wouldn't really kick Living Flame. I don't really think that's super great. How to kite well, survive, and utilize mobility. So in terms of surviving, we kind of already talked a bit about your Cdew rotation. It's the same thing. Honestly, like, when people get on me, I literally wall and Renewing Blaze at the same time. Like, if I get attacked, I literally just wall Renewing Blaze. And then it can be the same thing here. Like, you get your Echo up, you get your Reversion. If I'm getting, you know, literally pop this, and now I'm getting crushed, these guys are on me. It's the same thing. Stasis, Verdant Embrace, Echo, Tip the Scales, Dream Breath. Now we have a ton of healing. We have a ton of time to kite around. And when we need to pop all those heals, we can. But I don't really have a set way. I don't really have a absolute set way in how I like to kite. But normally speaking, I probably started off with a hover. If they get back to me, you know, you could hit them with a root. If they get back to you still, you have a knock. If they get back to you again, you could do a dream flight. At max level, if they get back to you again, you recall. Fast forward, pretend we're recalling because we're not talented into it right now. Recalling. They get back to you again, you have a recall. If you get back to you again, you have a dream flight. Boom, you dream flight, you echo again. Basically, one of the main things I will say to not do is try not to go through your hovers too quickly before you go through some of your other stuff. And you definitely don't want to ever double hover. Don't hover into hover. That feels really awkward to do. To be honest, I didn't even know it stacked up to 19 seconds, but it's still a little bit awkward to do, mainly because you have the extra 70% movement speed at the start. I try and spread my hovers out a little bit. So it's normally like a hover into a root, into a deep breath, into a hover, into a knock, into a you know what I mean? You want to spread these hovers out if you can. You have a lot of mobility, and if you're ever getting caught by melee, either your team is literally not helping you at all, because that actually happened to me the other night. I had an assassination rogue literally just training me, and every time he was on me, it was horrifying, because if I just got kidneyed, I could die. But if you're getting help, you can't be attacked as a healer. And as a Resto Shaman main, I don't know how I could ever play the class again. I literally have a healer that has ways to just avoid being attacked forever and ever, and it just feels amazing. But definitely utilize everything. Also, make sure you're utilizing, you know, the knockback, the knock up, especially if the 70% slow. And another really good thing for mobility is if you're topped on HP, don't forget Verdant Embrace can also get you out of melee range. You know, if you have a good amount of HP, feel free to Verdant Embrace your partner, and then also feel free to rescue your partner. I haven't been able to really showcase rescue yet because I don't have anyone in my group, but rescue is literally like it ping pongs you. It swoops you here, swoops you away. So if I had melee on me right here, I can literally go swoop, swoop, and then on top of that, it gives you the 30% shield. You use it while silence. If you fight DKs, if you fight Shadow Priest, use it while strang, use it while silence. Feels very, very good. I feel like we basically covered everything. I think we nailed it. Comps where Evokers will fit in the meta. So this is interesting. I personally feel like Evokers are going to be a very dominant cleave healer. The reason why I say that is because you don't have a lot of setup CC, but you don't need it. It feels like just an in-cap or a sleepwalk is good enough in melee cleaves. One of the things that melee cleave healers have always struggled with, in my opinion, is getting trained. When you're a melee cleave healer, people kind of just like to all-in you, and you don't really have those casters to get them off, so it's kind of just like a bloodbath at that point. Well, guess what? Evokers are really good at that. Another thing that you struggled with as a melee cleave healer is no one else on your team took interrupts. Guess what? Evokers don't care about interrupts. So all these things are kind of fitting into where Evokers feel really good, as well as the fact that you have big damage, and damage in melee cleaves is really strong. Could Evoker work in melee caster healer? I could definitely see it. I don't see a reason why not. But what I will say is that I'm not certain Evokers are going to feel good at healing wizards. And the reason why I say that is because generally speaking, I don't think we've ever seen wizard comps be successful with a healer that kind of basically only heals. You need the bashes, you need the Hodges, you know, you need setup CC from the healer for those comps to feel good or to work. It doesn't feel like Evoker has that. That doesn't mean that it will be impossible. It's more of a question as if, will the damage that Evoker deals be enough? Because it's actually a very high damage class. The damage it deals is probably better than every other healer in the game. Is the damage it deals going to be enough for it to turn the tides on having the DPS be the only ones that can actually help set up for a kill? So that's the main question. And also, there is the question of, is the wall and the swoop up going to be able to set up kills more than the CC and the stuns? So those are the two question marks for wizards. Will Evokers be good at healing wizards? Personally, from my experience, like when I'm healing a Shadow Priest in a solo shuffle versus cleaves, it feels awful. It feels so bad. Our Shadow Priest too squishy? Maybe that's the case. We're also missing our wall talent. We're also not on voice. You know, maybe there's more things we could do to make it happen. But my prediction is melee cleave healer will be the strongest. Melee caster healer will be the second strongest, possibly better than double melee. Probably depends on class tuning. And then you have some big question marks. Will Evokers be good healers for wizards? I would say Evokers kind of feel like shamans in this spot, where shamans haven't been able to heal wizards since MOP. You know, basically since mages lost deep freeze, shamans haven't been able to heal wizards because there's no solid stun. Now shamans actually might be the king wizard healers because you have Sky Fury Totem, you have Lightning Lasso, you can do a ton of damage to Stormkeeper. I think shamans are weaker overall, but they've gained the tools to actually heal wizards when Evokers may not have those tools available to them. Well, I guess that's it. Evoker is an incredibly fun class. I would definitely recommend trying it. Super fun, super smooth, super powerful. Most likely will get nerfed. Hopefully it doesn't become unplayable. I don't think it can get put back to the point of unplayableness. Just for reference, when I played Evokers on beta originally, Echo was a hard casted ability. Think about having to literally cast Echo before all of the healing spells you had to do. I don't even think you could run cast originally. Verdant Embrace wasn't self-castable, so you couldn't cast Verdant Embrace on yourself. So when you got trained, you would literally just die because the only way you could heal yourself was spamming Living Flame. So yeah, even if they tweak the numbers down a little bit, there's been so many quality of life changes for Evoker that is still going to allow it to be very powerful. I hope you guys enjoyed the guide, man. I know it was a lot. I was really excited to do this one because there's so much to it and it's so fun, and I really hope that you guys can share the same experience as me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.
That can never be